Peter, as we're coming to a close of AUVSI 2015, we've had just a really tough time picking out, boy, we like that and that looks interesting, and especially when you start talking to the folks behind the technology who have spent years and years developing stability and control systems, autonomous flight capabilities, sensor capabilities that a couple of years ago really could have been science fiction for all we knew. And then we see aircraft like this, which have a basis in general aviation, especially general aviation that we all know and love, and then see it be repurposed to do extraordinary things that, frankly, I don't think Diamond really intended from the very beginning. Tell us, if you will, about Centaur.
So the Centaurs are optionally piloted aircraft, and optionally piloted means that it's manned, unmanned, and hybrid mode. So the nice piece with this one right now is I can do research and development on an unmanned aspect, but still use it with a person on board. So we call an onboard safety pilot of that aspect. So I can go out, use a certified airplane. So I have all the safety aspects of already in a commercial airplane, and now I've tried to figure out how to use the technology for unmanned on that platform. So we actually do testing, in example, just south of the DC area. You would normally say, oh my gosh, drones in DC. Well, from unmanned aircraft systems, I can do a lot of research and development flying it in the hybrid mode. And in a hybrid mode, what we'll do is we'll put things where I have the safety pilot on board, but I'm actually flying it from the ground just like you would do in a traditional unmanned system. So I can validate things like the takeoff sequence, how I do loiters, how the payloads integrate, how the human factors work out from the ground segment, all in the safety of the normal NASA airspace by having a safety pilot on board. So it's kind of the best of both worlds on there, and it really helps us on the research and development piece to it. When I can go in and validate a landing profile for my next aircraft system on this aircraft system, so when your first unmanned flight has gone on, you've actually flown that profile, flown that system, an example on the Centaur here.
Now, what kind of mission profiles is this aircraft being developed for? Obviously, a vehicle like this, well, the sky is no limit in this particular case.
Well, the best part of, everybody talks about manned versus unmanned, is what you really will find out is the human in the system is actually the limitation. So when you start talking about a profile for this, I can take a manned asset and say, okay, great, this is normally about 8 hours worth of flying in a manned mode. Well, one of the big mission sets you see for this would be a perfect example is a disaster response. I want to get a sensor there, cameras there to help out on the recovery effort. Well, I can fly down there in manned mode. And then as we go through the coordination effort to allow the unmanned effort going through, I can continue to do those missions in a hybrid mode. And then when you're finally coordinated and got it and say, okay, we're now authorizing you to fly unmanned, using the exact same aircraft, the same ground segments from there, I can now fly it in a pure unmanned mode, and now the human doesn't become the limit. Now I'm flying something that's in the 22 to 24-hour endurance region, which obviously will exceed the ability of a single pilot on the system. So now I can actually take advantage of what the system's capable of, not the limitations of the human in the system.
What does it take to take a perfectly box stock DA42 and turn it into a vehicle with these kind of capabilities?
It's a magic wand. Now, the fun piece on it is everything from the avionics to understanding how you want to do the control interfaces. I mean, our approach right now from the optionally piloted aircraft is what we don't want to do is decertify the airplane. We need to limit the amount of things that we actually, in essence, would break on the airplane. So what we want to do right now is it's an interface to the aircraft. So call it the robot, call it the George, it's on top of it. It actually interacts with the system, takes data from the system, and then allows you to fly that remotely on there without trying to break the certification of the aircraft.
So where does this go from here?
Well, the fun part is obviously everybody's wanting more customers, and going from that, I see this one really pretty much hitting a lot of the test sites out there, getting guys to a little bit better understanding of what unmanned is. I see more of the sensor payload integration going on. What I really think you're going to see happening is the approach that we did with the DA42 popping into other airplanes. And I see this where we start getting into the commercial, the bigger airplanes, other options that are in there. We've got a variety of projects from DoD customers to non-DoD that are doing everything from sensor visual acuity to look at instruments to how do I actually make this where I can transition an airplane in a matter of hours versus having to take months to unmanned a manned airplane.
Peter, I thank you for spending a little time with Airborne and Aero-TV, and I'm going to have to keep up and see where you guys go to next. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Aero-TV is brought to you by
Now certified, Aspen Avionics single-band ADS-B ATX-100 and ATX-100G transceivers are the next-gen ADS-B solution that provides the features pilots need while keeping flyaway costs low. Check it out now at aspenavionics.com.